and good evening. Welcome to today's discussion. We will just start in a couple of minutes while we wait for everyone to join. So, hello and welcome again to today's discussion on judicial independence. Judicial independence is often described as the soul of the democracy, but in today's fast changing legal and political landscape, what does this really mean? How independent is India's judiciary today compared to a decade ago? And what challenges does it face from appointments and accountability to public perception or even technology? In this discussion today, we're joined by Advocate Lakshmi, who is a legal professional with over 20 years of experience in litigation and intellectual property law, practicing before district courts, high courts, and the Supreme Court of India. Today, we'll explore the current state of the judicial independence in India, examine recent key developments and high profile cases, and discuss lessons from global best practices. Welcome to today's discussion, ma'am. I before we
You.
begin, I would just like to show a small video about Rest the Case and then we can begin the discussion.
In a world where time is precious, getting swift access to legal help shouldn't be a privilege, but a right. Welcome to Rest the Case, India's most trusted online platform for legal solutions. We are transforming the legal tech landscape, bridging gaps, and bringing legal support to anyone, anywhere, at any time. The legal field in India can be overwhelming. Courts are crowded, the search for the right legal help is confusing, and legal fees can be unpredictable. Many litigants face trust issues, uncertain about finding a lawyer who truly understands their needs. Rest the Case solves this by providing verified lawyer profiles, making it easier than ever to find trusted legal support. That's where Rest the Case steps in. From consultations to document drafting and court representation, our digital platform brings legal expertise to your fingertips.
So our tools will make life simpler for litigants, retail by helping them reach the right lawyers. We are using GenAI, we are creating an improved matching system. And for B2B, which is for startups and mid-level corporates, we are helping them by doing tasks like document draft creation, also other aspects which relates to their internal process improvement.
Powered by cutting-edge technology, our platform leverages AI to match users with the most suitable lawyers. Based on expertise and location, from its start, Rest the Case has grown rapidly. With a presence across India, our mission is to provide legal accessibility everywhere, from big cities to smaller towns.
Our vision is to make legal support accessible and affordable for everyone in India. Our journey began in the lockdown, where suddenly people did not know what to do or where to find the right legal support. We then realized that this is not just a pandemic issue. This is an issue that people face every day and everywhere. That's how Rest the Case was born. We bridged the gap between a lawyer and a client to give them a reliable place to find the right legal help.
Rest the Case, because every case.
Thank you for watching that video. So I would like to start the discussion, ma'am, by talking about how we consider judicial independence to be the soul of the democracy. What do you think? Is it is Do you think this statement is true? Do you think today India's judicial independence is stronger, weaker? How is it different from what it was before?
Let's start from the beginning. I mean, when India had, when the team had come up with the constitution, the first draft of the constitution, I mean, at that point of time, those who were drafting the constitution were not in positions of ministers or government positions or anything of the sort. I mean, there's a very famous quote by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, constitution as a citizen. Tomorrow, if I'm part of the government, I'm not going to be on the side of the citizenry, I'm going to be on the side of the government. So what the government wants is not what the citizen wants, and what the citizen wants is not what the government wants. So, in that perspective, when you look at it, it's not just the judiciary, but each, we have like a tripod system in this country. We have the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. So, each one of these tripods stand on a very different vertical as opposed to the entire nation of citizenry that we have. So, taking that into account, we were at that point of time trying to grow a judicial system which was drawing its principles from different constitutions across the world, with the intention that, look, things have been tried and tested in other countries. We don't want to regenerate the process. We don't want to start making something which has not been tried and tested before. So let's take principles which have been tried, tested, which have weathered the passage of time. Let's take those principles to make our country stronger. And I think right from the get go, I mean, right up from 1950 onwards, we've had some real stalwarts on the side of the bar. We've had stalwarts on the bench who have literally strengthened the constitution by giving us views which even the drafting committee never had. There were I wouldn't say a Pandora's box review, but different points of view, perceptions, which they did not have even whilst having so many brilliant people in the drafting committee. When the test, the test of a contract is the time when the contract actually gets executed. It's the same thing when the constitution actually got enacted and people actually started using articles of the constitution. It was then that each of the articles in the constitution were tested by fire, and that test by fire, before each bench, before each each court, they started realizing, how do we improve this, how do we make this work. So at no point of time I think that either the government or the citizenry actually looked down upon this situation. The judiciary, even then, even today, you go to anybody, it's like if they have a dispute, they are not going to say कि भाई हम कोई और के पास में जाते हैं to go to solve my dispute. They will first say we will go to court,
Yeah.
we will file a complaint, because they still have that faith that irrespective of everybody may turn against me, when I go to court my right will be given to me. So that faith still being there in the citizenry actually is living proof of the fact that the judiciary has done its job till today and continues to do its job.
Right. Right. So, when we talk about some of the challenges that judicial independence or judiciary faces as a whole, there have been some debates about judicial appointments or the collegium system that we have. Do you think this is a challenge that we face right now, or do you think that there are other bigger problems that we have apart from how we appoint our judges?
The reality of all of this is very simple. We are human beings. We tend to make mistakes.
Yeah.
If not human beings who make mistakes, I don't know who does. So, if we are coming from a society, like for example, whether we are doctors, lawyers, architects, engineers, whoever, we come from a society where we have the same problems. People lie, people cheat, people are honest, people are dishonest. We have all those problems. So, all those problems are part of society. We take them in wherever our profession deems and wherever our profession takes us. Now, that taking into consideration, yes, every system, every commission, every committee, every part or every branch of where professionals exist, there will be problems. Nothing is perfect. People want perfection, they have to find heaven, because they're not going to find it here. You have to find a mechanism which works, a working mechanism. And like I tell a lot of my clients, when it comes to settlement, there are necessary evils. There are things that you can hope for, you may get, you may not get. So when you're looking at systems that are put in place, yes, sometimes they work brilliantly. Like for example, I was just listening to something a couple of days ago wherein there was some analyst talking about it, that even earlier in the first 35 years of independence, we had something of a discussion with the executive, and the chief justice and judges used to get appointed. We had brilliant judges that time. Then we had the collegium system. We still had brilliant judges. Now we have NJAC. We still have brilliant judges. See, the core requirement that there is judicial independence, it is inscribed in the basic structure of the constitution. That cannot be taken away. I mean, emergency has proved it. Emergency has proved the fact that even in the whole country, if you can't speak against the government, if you can't speak against something, you can walk into a courtroom and say whatever you want,
Yeah.
and no one is going to arrest you. So if that is, the kind of freedom that a citizen has within the four walls of a courtroom, I still believe, and a lot of lawyers still believe, that there is a freedom which exists within the judiciary, and irrespective of who the political appointee is, wherein it's like, for example, whether it's the collegium, whether it's NJAC, whether it's a recommendation from the government, whoever, once that person becomes judge, and once that person swears that he's going to uphold the constitution, all of us believe that yes, he will make the effort. It is very difficult, yes, many times. But then, I mean, like, look, the Supreme Court, I've seen that the Supreme Court has worked overnight to solve matters. They have stayed up the whole night, they have had night proceedings. Why? Because they feel that this is important for the democracy of our country. There are cases wherein the Supreme Court has worked Saturdays, Sundays, and other days wherein everybody has been on holiday. So that they know that this affects the democratic process of this country. There are high courts which have worked Saturdays, Sundays. They have worked, like, we've had judges who have worked till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody has told them to do that, but they are doing it for so that they are in a position to solve a very basic problem, and that is the legal rights of people who are being affected by this, by whatever is the problem. So now, if they have that much freedom to run courts whenever they want to do things whenever they want to follow the process whenever they want to, I think it's a little bit, it's not asking too much to give them the freedom to pick and choose whomever they want to the bench.
Right.
For example, I know people make a lot of, there, it's been on national television, there are political appointees, and then there are chacha mama stories and uncle judge and nephew lawyer, all that nonsense is there, and people bring it to the fore, but I don't think it is so rampant as they make it out to be, first and foremost. I mean, even if you look at it, you will see that there has been. I mean, for example, take the example of our previous Chief Justice, uh, Justice Chandrachud.
Yeah.
When did he become a judge?
Yeah.
When was his father a judge? I mean, there's a whole host of, like, some 30, 40 years, and I don't think his father could have ever influenced that position. It's not. So, I mean, there is certain what do you say, a certain expertise. They have earned those positions by virtue of their education and their their practice and their experience and their expertise. And I think at least in 90% of the cases, you can definitely say that yes, this man or this lady, whoever it is good enough for the bench, and the collegium has picked them, the Supreme Court has approved of them, the government has approved of them, and I think that I mean, majority, most of them are good people, yeah, at the end of the day. So, the whole thing about, injecting this story that, nahi, nahi, there is corruption across the board everywhere, and they're all, this is, I think, about taking the thing too far for no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly speaking, we are not in the United States of America that you can just, appoint a judge and dismiss a judge via presidential signature. President is not going to sign things like that in this country. So, I mean, we've seen it. It doesn't happen. There is a process for impeachment. There is evidence to be brought for all of this. But I don't really think that, there's something to be worried about for that.
Okay. So adding to that, right, I mean, there is sort of a rising perception that courts are under political or executive pressure. How do you interpret this? Do you think this is the reality today? Or again, like how you were mentioning it, is this like a thing that is exaggerated beyond what it actually is?
So you see, I'll tell you what we've seen is over the years. I mean, I started my practice in 2003. So, I mean, I was there when the Congress governments were in place. Now I'm practicing in a phase when the BJP governments are in place. I don't see a difference in the attitude of the judges. I don't see a difference in the mindset. I don't see a difference wherein there is so much pressure that, oh no, yeah, they have to take decisions in favor of the government. No, you see, look across the board from district courts right up till the high courts and the supreme courts. They are saying one thing very clearly, that this is the constitution, this is the act, this is the thing. You please fall in
Yeah.
line. Whether it's the police, whether it's the complainant, whether it's the accused, they are saying very simple that look, we want to have quicker justice, we want to have faster processes. I mean, that's the only reason that we've had this BNSS and all these things which were changed
Yeah.
recently. Because yes, we've got to change with the times. And seriously speaking, with 1.5 billion people, you can't really afford to take it at your own pace. We need to move faster. I can just about imagine, young lawyers standing there and wondering कि भाई ये कब मेरा number कब आएगा. There, I mean, at every stage, the judges, the judiciary are doing their best. It's not like you can take one brush and put it across the board and say nahi nahi ye to because they are appointees of this government ye aise hai. This is not the case. And I mean, for what I've seen from district courts, high courts, supreme court, each judge functions according to his capacity to the best. And I think that yes, sometimes we have disappointments. Like for example, sometimes a matter goes on forever and the judge tends to say, okay, theek hai yaar, you say what you want. They give that kind of permission to the lawyers to go on forever, but lawyers take it for granted sometimes and they go on forever. Like for example, recently we were serial number 6 before a particular bench, and that matter went on for the whole day. And everybody was thinking that, the judges will tell them that nay, nay, you're going on for too long, please wrap it up. But nobody said anything. But at the end of the day, this rarely happens. And I don't think that we should be blaming anybody. Like for example, I've always maintained that we have students across the country who study in the same class, who have the same textbook, but they have different results. In the same way, they take up different professions. So in the same way, we have judges across the country who have the same kind of offices to follow, but they function according to what they think is the best way to manage that particular jurisdiction and that particular work assignment. And I think I really think that the lawyers who practice for the simple reason that they feel that they are doing the best that they can, we are doing the best that we can. And I think it's a very fair assumption to say that, yes, sometimes there is political pressure. Like, for example, in Maharashtra, we recently had that Maratha Morcha, this, that, and the other thing. The judges did their best. They were hearing matters on Saturday, Sunday. They were doing all these kind of things to just accommodate them and try to say, okay, theek hai, let's hear this matter, let's finish it up, let's
Yeah.
not drag it forever. I mean, they did not need to do it, but they did it. So there was no political pressure. They just wanted the matter to get over because other days they could do other matters. So they restricted these matters to the
Yeah.
weekends and they finished it. So, I don't think it's a question of political pressure. I think it's a question of the willingness and the professionalism and the maturity of the judiciary to kind of take up their burdens and to do the best that they can afford to. And sometimes, yes, like sometimes people say, Are ye to, this, like for example, there was this one particular judge, Bombay High Court, who was speaker of RSS for the longest period of time. And then she became a judge, and people said all kinds of things about her. but she's like perfectly normal as a judge. There's nothing, when she is sitting as a judge, there is no political kind of what do you say, there is no political vendetta, there is no political opinion. She doesn't come up. It's the same thing, like, we
Yeah.
practice different religions. You don't bring your religious belief to the bench or to the bar. The same way, they do not, they try whatever it is, they don't bring their political beliefs to the bench or to the bar. And I think they're
Right.
pretty fair. So this, I don't really, yes, people say a lot of things, and yes, people have their own kind of affiliations maybe, but I don't think they carry it everywhere with
Right.
them.
And I think, like you rightly mentioned, when courts take up matters on the weekends, or when judges take up matters on the weekends, or some of the recent verdicts also, I think that shows that independence or judicial independence is still in action, and it's not lost, or it's not at threat. Um, but do you think,
Correct.
or what, according to you, are some of the challenges that we have currently? Or you think that there aren't any?
No, there are a lot of challenges. For example, we seriously need to get judicial uh,
Hmm.
access to the
Yeah.
rural areas of this country. We need to get judicial access to the illiterate and the uneducated. We need to do something about our under trials. We need to do something about our jails, which are overcrowded with under trials. We need to do something about families of under trials, which are in the midst of running to courts and getting just tariq pe tariq, which is not really working. So yes, in a way, we need to do something about that, but that means we need more courts and we
Yeah.
need more judges. Yeah, so I was in that YouTube thing that I was listening to some time back. Somebody was saying that, oh, such good judge, such good people, and such eminent jurists, and such eminent lawyers, and such eminent experts are kept out of the judiciary because of their so-called political leanings. But you tell me one thing: it's an accepted position that every judge gets a salary. Everybody knows in the judicial system what the salaries are, what the compensation is. I mean, if any senior counsel worth his salt is earning far more than that. It also takes a lot of courage to give up all that kind of money and give up all that kind of reward of having a flourishing private practice and come and serve the nation, and come and sit on a bench and say, look, I will do this for my country, and I will give that access to justice. Because you see northeastern states, because I have friends there in the lower judiciary, and it's not so great. You see the rural areas, the district courts, they are not in a great position, and many of them still opt for judiciary. They go to those rural districts, and ladies especially, they go to the lower judiciary, they go to the district courts. They are doing that because they feel that, look, I need to do something for my country, I need to do something for the rural
Yeah.
people. So, there is this whole desire about, from the young people, that we want to do something for our country. At the same time, we should have that infrastructure in place, that people have practiced for 3 5 years. Let's give them an opportunity to kind of do something. And I think that is something that I think the present government, or in future the governments, need to think about how to work this. It's the same problem
Yeah.
with the medical, with the hospitals, the medical graduates. There are a lot of people who want to serve the nation, but because of safety issues, because of this, that, and the other, it's very difficult to go into the district, into the rural areas, and do all of that. So I think, medical and legal also go hand in hand, because it's all to do with security, access. And if you have good medical services, good legal services for the rural population, automatically country
Correct.
evolves. So that is something that we need to look at. Maybe as judiciary, maybe as lawyers, maybe as the legal legislature. That's something that we need to look at. There are a whole host of challenges, that there's no
Right.
doubt about it, but we need to look at it from an aspect of what is the one thing, that one thing which will move the needle forward on improving our country and, developing
Yeah, yeah,
the citizenry as it is. Merely criticizing is not going to help.
definitely. And I mean, yeah, like my next question actually was going to be for you about how, as a common citizen, maybe talking about judicial independence might feel like a very distant thing, where they might feel like, how does this concern me directly or my day-to-day life, right? But what you mentioned, I think, is a perfect example of how it actually affects every citizen. When you don't have proper access, or when you don't have proper systems in place, or you don't have the infrastructure, then it impacts everything, thereby also impacting judicial independence and us as a citizen. uh,
Exactly. No, because the problem here is that the ordinary citizen, see, in terms of medical, as legal professionals, like, thank God I have
yeah,
medical professionals in my family, so we know what is the question to be asked. As an ordinary person who doesn't know anything about medical, you wouldn't know what
yeah,
question to ask. Same thing as a person who doesn't know anything about legal, even though you have a case in court, you wouldn't know
yeah,
what to ask your lawyer. So, how are you going to understand what's
definitely.
going on? So that is part of the whole problem. You make them aware, you go there, you open the access. Now, this whole idea of this circuit bench in Kolhapur
Mm,
is brilliant. I mean, it is beyond brilliant because it just gives another access point to so many people who have to travel either ways to the other benches
yeah,
just to get justice. And why should so much effort be made for a person? Imagine a widow, an orphan, people who don't have money to travel. Education and living skills and surviving skills are so difficult. Why make medical and
correct.
legal so difficult? So these are issues that, these are larger issues for the country. Because judicial independence is something that we can live with
Yeah,
this way or that way, because from time immemorial nobody really interferes with judiciary, nobody interferes with executive, nobody interferes with legislature except
right,
for criticizing each other. But the rest of it makes a
right,
huge difference.
right. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's less effective if we just talk about it idealistically, where you say that, oh, this should happen, that should happen. We can sit here very easily, criticize the system and say this is wrong, this is wrong, but then no one's actually practically looking at what is happening at the base of it. um, and then, do you think that judicial independence is something that is, like a layer above, and then we're yet to kind of talk about the base level challenges, like you said, lack of infrastructure, or lesser judges, or lesser courts that are available, and then we can kind of go and talk about these more complex issues like judicial independence?
I think, honestly, I think judicial independence, honestly speaking, I think the judiciary is like, I would just liken it to a part or to a site, like maybe we have our
Yeah,
army, navy, and air force. Our armed forces are never going to be interested in
correct.
the politics of this country. They just don't
Yeah,
want anything to do with it. They are very happy that people that are there, there is a government, the country is looked after, we don't have to bother with what's going on. They will just man our borders and they will just do what the armed forces does. The judiciary is very much similar to that. Like, for example, for all that people say that they say ye influence hai, wo influence hai, oh, the judges do this, oh, the judges do, lawyers do this, lawyers do that. But frankly speaking, when you're sitting on that bench, when you're judging matters as a judge, for that period of time, you really don't care about what's happening in the world outside. You
right,
just want to do your job. You just want to hear that matter. You just want to be done with it. So, as long as you're a judge, you're on that bench, you're on in the judiciary, these things, the fact that you can actually do justice to people in the sense of hearing matters, disposing of them, giving judgments matters more than everything else
right,
put together. So, like I said, we are not America. We are never going to be in that position where the judges remain there till they die, first. Secondly speaking, we are never going to be in situations wherein the judge has a permanent jurisdiction and he's never going to move. We have, for the purposes of getting independence for the judiciary, we have transferability of judges. We have changing of the rosters, the sitting rosters. We have situations wherein we get chief justices from different states. We have a situation where judges retire. you know we don't have permanency in anything. So even if you think that nahi, nahi, ye chalta, it can, even if there is a possibility of something like that happening, it's not going to
Yeah.
happen for a long period of time. And see, as any person working, as any professional working, if you do something wrong, you
Correct.
are going to get caught, and it's going to be spoken about. And I don't think, see, we've had so many judges come and go. How many examples do we really have, or how many complaints do we really have against people? None. We've like got one or two in 76, 78 years of independence. It's I think it's really childish to look at it from that point of view. We have more population than the whole of Europe
Mhm.
and America put together. I think we need to talk about our infrastructure first, rather than going and talking about, judiciary independence, this, that, and the other. We need to get our
Right.
basics in place first. I mean, the judges will come. Like recently, we've had 14 new judges in the Bombay High Court. Very, very well appreciated. They're good people. There's nothing wrong with them, and they're doing their job. What more could you
Correct.
ask for from a professional? So, I mean, and to sacrifice a practice to come and do this, I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
laudable for that matter. So, judicial independence, yes, it's an idea which is there in the constitution. It's an idea that we all need to bear with. When you're sitting on the bench as a judge, you need to understand that, look, I will not be influenced by anything else. I will follow constitution. I will do what I'm supposed to do. But there are always challenges to that. And those challenges, like you would be a normal professional, you would have challenges. You will have challenges everywhere. So you just need to look at it from the point of view that I need to do my job. And I think that if any person could do that much, that's just done. I mean, your job just gets done
Right.
with that. And I think the judiciary in India is, very, 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 I mean, as compared to many other countries, very well sorted. They're very intelligent. It's not just that they speak well or do their job well. They also have, certain moral values which come with our so-called Sanskriti
Yeah.
culture and things like that, which they will not do something which is totally illegal or which is completely shocking to the conscience. And this does not happen in our country. I mean, I it's one of the good things about our country that we will not
Yeah.
have things like this. I mean, at base, you may find one or two people guilty of corruption, and that's also money. It's not something like
Yeah. Yeah.
hugely problematic.
Yeah.
So
That
yeah.
is good to hear. Um, I have concluded all my questions since it was just you today. So, I mean, I think we have covered most of the topic and we have discussed at length how much ever we could. So, if you don't have anything to add, then I would then conclude the discussion.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
just
Sure.
one thing that I wanted to add was we've become so used to talking and taking issues and trying to find criticisms and faults in our systems and saying, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong, this should be improved. But I mean, it was good that the discussion we had today was a rather positive one and kind of highlighted what's good and what is good that is happening. Obviously there are always going to be challenges, but we kind of, it's good to hear that you are in the system and you see the positive side in it and you see how systems are actually good and our judiciary is working how it's supposed to work. So I mean, that was good to hear, and I'm glad that we're ending the discussion on a positive note. And with that, I would like to thank you again for joining us for this discussion. It's always very nice to talk to you, and I'm sure our audience also likes to hear you talk about these issues. And I will see you again in the next discussion. Thank you so much, ma'am.